I've gotten tons of requests for the X for the Search for the Worst Gumball series, and I gotta say, this one may be my most interesting one yet. Also look at my Twitter. For those of you who have or haven't followed my Twitter, a small favor, when you do, feel free to tag me with your thoughts on this episode or any in the Search for the Worst series, so any in this playlist here. I'll be making a special video on that. But getting over to the X, this is a request, and a request that I think really separates me from the common Gumball fan. Ever since I stumbled into this Search for the Worst series, people really wanted me to cover the X, the robot, and the girlfriend, claiming all three of these to be horrible episodes that just have characters in a bad light or bad portrayal. With the robot, I understand. Some people can't get over the fact that Bobber doesn't look anything like Gumball, and it's hard to suspend disbelief. With the girlfriend, I also understand. No one wants to see a troglodyte bully a fish for 11 minutes. It just seems very mean-spirited. Even though I don't agree with these criticisms, I will say it's valid to have, and I understand the thought process behind that. But this episode, I genuinely do not understand the hate. I do have a few culprits, and we'll see them throughout the episode. In fact, let's get to the first one. Specifically, culprit number 1. Gumball's treatment of Penny throughout the episode. This episode even starts with Gumball not listening to Penny.
Gumball, slow down, you'll get brain freeze.
I'll be fine. It's my special skill. I can eat as much ice cream as I want and never get brain freeze.
But it's funny. It's a classic joke within Gumball to cut way before the sentence is over with the punchline. They've done it before and they got a lot of great jokes to come out of that. However, one thing that is pretty crucial here, you'll notice that all throughout the episode, even though Gumball ignores Penny, pushes her aside like you would do with a plate of unsalted fries because you're civilized, and treats her very bad, she never gets harmed at any point within the episode. At most, she's inconvenienced with someone whom she's self-aware is often in his own head all the time. I hope you don't think Penny doesn't know that Gumball is already quite absorbed, right?
Have I ever told you about Rob?
Yeah, once or twice.
And then Rob tried to blow up the dam and then he said, I am your nemesis.
To me, it seems like within the story, Penny is only there to serve as a contrasting perspective towards Gumball's insecurity and inner thoughts, showing that how he has a best friend and a girlfriend, he often wants what he doesn't have, and Penny knows that. However, to give the benefit of the doubt, one could say that it isn't a common thing to see Penny so directly involved in Gumball's antics. Pre the shell, there were episodes such as The Pressure, The Party, and The Date, in which the episode focused heavily on Gumball, with Penny being a pretty major part, however at most directly involved only a few times, even though it didn't matter. And just to be clear, The Pressure dealt with Darwin and Masami more. The Party had a giant focus on, well, the party, but also and The Date also focused on Gumball's family alongside Penny's family, rather than just them together. However, post the shell, you have the bros, the romantic, and the misunderstandings, of which the latter two have a very similar premise to this, where it's all about the misunderstandings that Gumball and Penny have because Gumball is off towards getting the next thing, or being too bored to even bother. And also, just to say, the bros also dealt with a misunderstanding, it just had Darwin be the main focus of that misunderstanding. But Penny was a part of that as well. But getting back to the X, if anything, this episode offers a fresh perspective on that concept that those latter two episodes really explored by having Rob. Speaking of which...
What's he buying? Oh, don't tell me. No, tell me. No, don't tell me. Just give me a clue. Okay, 2 clues.
He seems to be buying a circular saw.
He seems to be setting up a trap. In these scenes here, you see Gumball acting more attached to the idea of having a nemesis to a comedic effect, and having Penny here really cements the fact that he should be attached to someone else, someone right in front of him or to the side of him, and that's why it works for me. I never considered Gumball to be a moral-driven character, so I don't get upset if he isn't doing the morally correct thing. But speaking of upset, Gumball finds out that Rob sent a text to him that has some really weird phrases like yellow skin, banana-y guts, and flat out saying that he hates Banana Joe, which is weird because he sent it to Gumball. Gumball, in denial, potential embarrassment, probably a little bit of heartbreak, possibly learns that he wasn't wanted in front of his girlfriend and starts the process of being in denial. Upon confronting Rob, we learn more.
I'm nemesing someone else now.
What?
Yeah, that message was for Banana Joe. He's kind of my new nemesis.
You're not making any sense.
Look, I try to end you, you try to end me. You save me, I save you. It got complicated.
And it did get complicated, given that in the disaster slash rerun, one of the best episodes, by the way, that I haven't reviewed yet, Gumball saved Rob after a Titanic failure, which led Rob into reversing everything and realizing that he had a bigger enemy. In fact, Rob's new nemesis being Banana Joe makes a lot more sense than I initially realized. If we are assuming that this is in order, sans a few weird production order switches, like with the future, then Rob would definitely have to find another nemesis, given that his plans to take over Elmore doesn't end with Gumball. While Elmore takes a great focus on Gumball, he's the figurehead, he's the face, he's the mascot, but he doesn't control anything. Given his new calculations, I would consider him targeting Banana Joe to be a giant step in the right direction, because who is Banana Joe's mom? Right, Banana Barbara. And the future is all about Rob going after? Absolutely! And who is the best mother in Elmore? Wrong. It's Banana Barbara. Have you not been paying attention? Well, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to go home. And no, you cannot get the box edition of this game.
Doesn't want to be my nemesis anymore.
Oh, I'm sure he still hates you. He's just not in hate with you.
I just don't want to go back out there on the hating scene.
Don't worry. I'm sure there's someone out there that wants to destroy you.
So then we get to culprit number 2, the obsession Gumball has over Rob wanting to be his nemesis. This one is kind of understandable, but to me, Gumball has always been highly protective over what he initially didn't care for. What about the third? Where initially Gumball was happy with Darwin as a friend, having a third best friend made Gumball highly protective of Darwin. Or the helmet, where he literally had to be restrained when he learned the news of not getting his lucky tinfoil helmet or hat back. There's his relationships with Larry and Mr. Robinson, which are very one-sided, in which he feeds off of the reactions and attention that they give him. With Rob no longer giving him attention, of course he's going to act that way, justified or not.
Maybe it's Rob!
Gumball?
But it could be him!
No. No.
No!
How did he do that?
Imagine Carrie walking in on Penny, holding Darwin's shoulders while he's dressed like that. Now that's a fight I want to see. I don't know who would win that. But anyway, the reason the obsession doesn't really annoy me is because it doesn't do what other episodes do that annoy me. Unlike the parents, we don't have the episode trying to brute force the point home that Rob should feel a certain way about Gumball. It's done over the course of multiple foiled plans, rather than a sappy song and a clear lie. Unlike the web, this isn't trying to shove a political message down my throat under the guise of a LOL certain moms be like #relatable episode. Unlike the worst, this isn't trying to shove a flawed from the gates social issues message via poorly done jokes. Like, what do you want from this episode to the people who don't like it? How would an episode revolving around Rob finding a new nemesis work in your eyes? This is cartoony, no one's being harmed in a way that would be deemed uncomfortable for the audience, it's treated as a romantic episode for comedic reasons, and in lore, it makes sense. If anything, people should love this episode. It's a pit stop between the rerun and disaster, and then the future, that actually connects those two together.
I'll see you at 3 tomorrow for your nemesis interview. I'm, Pied Piper?
Really? The Pied Piper? That's the best nemesis you could come up with? I don't even want to get into the fact that you're only wearing underpants and speaking into a TV remote.
It's also just a breath of fresh air to see Rob in a more casual tone given his transformation. Given that we're going to see a lot more before and after this episode as far as his villain shtick goes, to see him act so business with Gumball is a fresh take on the character revolving around his singular mission. So that leaves culprit number 3, the dynamic between Gumball and Rob contextually within this episode. I will admit that between the disaster slash rerun, this, and the future, this is the weakest of the trio, or is it like a quartet? I don't know. Point is, out of all those episodes, clearly this is the worst of them. But that's why I labeled it as a pit stop. Of course, between an episode that literally ripped time apart and broke dimensions, and another episode that ripped dimensions apart and was just aired at the wrong time, those episodes beat this episode that just functions as a quasi-sister episode conceptually to the bros. If Gumball was being inconsiderate to Darwin or Penny and they were harmed, that's one thing. But it seems like they're going along for the ride and aren't thrilled at it, granted, but they're not being forced to be there. It's not like they're being there against their will. And if anything, if Gumball ruins Rob's plans, that's a good thing. Rob and Gumball are supposed to hate each other. They stand for opposite beliefs, and they won't budge on them, especially with Rob's mission.
Fine! Fine. You want me to go full Banana Joe? Cause I'll do it.
Gumball Watterson, you've been served.
Don't worry, you can claim fair use, but if it's anything like my last few uploads, it's gonna be a long and bumpy fight. So focusing on this last sabotage, Gumball goes into it claiming that he wants to be Rob's friend, to which we see a brief period of them working together. Not fighting, just being cool. Once again, a neat perspective, even though I wouldn't always want it that way. However, Gumball not only gets the house wrong, not only messes up this last sabotage after it was going so well, he outs Rob, thus leading into Banana Joe knowing of Rob's existence.
I don't believe it! You've got to be the most insufferable, annoying, selfish person I've ever met!
Go on.
In fact, I think I really
Say it.
hate you!
Gumball mentions that he apologizes to Penny, a bit of a cheap way to get out of showing the actual conversation that they would need to have, of course. It ends on the off joke about Darwin that I didn't mention because it makes no sense towards anything within the episode, and it just has Darwin playing dumb in an unfunny way. And now, we have the 9th episode in this Search for the Worst Gumball episode series done. I don't think this is the worst like with the robot. I actually came out of it not only liking it more, but realizing that my definition of a bad portrayal of a Gumball character is nowhere near episodes like this. If you want to see an episode in which I believe has a bad portrayal of a Gumball character, just wait for the episode that I saved for last. Until then, make sure to follow me at the Alpha J Show on Twitter. Let me know what you think about this episode in the comments down below. Until then, special thanks to the supporters of June, and until next time, take care. Alpha out.